barbecue.
What?
So the answer to that will be wait till you see our sukkah's menu.
All right. No, it's better not to do this, my friend. What should I tell you?
Do what? Do what?
To look at a menu on Yom Tif and
Reb Zev is not on the chat, so he doesn't get to keep up to date.
That's why I have Kaplan. Keeps me posted.
all right, let's roll. Yeah. Yeah, we ready to roll?
Yeah.
Okay, so to Chazer, yesterday was probably from the harder dafim. Right, Machlokes, and today's a little bit of a continuation, and then it gets easier. Machlokes is Rebbi on where on the tree the eruv is kept and how big the tree is. That was yesterday. And whether you say that you put chaykikin lahashlim by taking the basket, putting the eruv in the basket, putting it next to the tree, and then the status of a basket on top of Pol Rosh Hashanah, and then Rabbi Yirmiyah had a teretz that he says that you can tilt the basket, since you theoretically could tilt the basket and get out your eruv, so therefore, if the eruv is a kosher eruv, even if you don't tilt the basket. And then on Amud Aleph, we start asking all sorts of kashas on Rabbi Yirmiyah on the basket, right? We had asked from making your eruv on Yom Tov by night, right? Two consecutive days, one day Yom Tov and one day Shabbos. And we said you don't do it. Fine. So now we're up to the next kasha. 4 lines down. 4 lines down. You know, we gave time for the Midwest people to show up, but none of them showed up. No? Okay, I don't know. I guess
so we should stop trying to please everybody.
Hey, oh, now you're talking.
Once you move out of the area, you don't count anymore.
Who says?
Listen, I hope Hashem wants to please all of us in the coming couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Right, whatever you take out of that. Yeah. Anyways.
If we move
hopefully we'll please Hashem. The truth is we gotta please Hashem. Let's us please Hashem first, and then we'll yeah. Okay, so Zok the Gemara. Yes, another question on Rav Yirmiyah's pshat. So let's say you decided that you're making an eruv tchum. In Rosh Hashanah, and he puts his eruv in a wall less than 10 tefachim from the ground. Then the eruv is a good eruv, obviously, because it's less than 10 tefachim. He can access his eruv, no problem.
Where are you?
4 lines down on Lamed Dalet Amud Aleph.
Lamed Dalet?
Lamed Dalet Amud, right? That's what we're up to, right?
Lamed Gimel.
Lamed Dalet. We had a daf on Friday.
Lamed Dalet.
You got the right place, Yaakov.
You got the right place.
Okay. Yeah,
I guess Aaron Kaplan is not keeping him in the loop.
The shir is brought to you by Rebbi.org. Lamed Dalet.
Very good. Okay, so yeah, Nischav and Lish was just around. Right, so you had kavanah to make an eruv shesarav, and you put your eruv in the wall below 10 tefachim, so that eruv. That's not a chiddush. L'malav yud tefachim, any eruv, also not a chiddush. Right, if he puts it on the wall above 10 tefachim, he can't access it because above 10 tefachim, Rosh Hashanah, he's standing Rosh Hashanah. Yeah. Fine. I got a kick out of the picture that Yudi posted. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, but it could not have been from one of the yeshivish things. The guy's wearing shorts. That okay, I don't know. I think the guy was wearing shorts, right? I don't know what site that came from, but I don't think it came from any of the mainstream pictures, right? Anyways, so again, Nischav, but it was a good picture. It was a good picture. It explains it pretty well. He's wearing
kermelis also. He has kermelis also.
Oh, that I didn't notice.
Wearing kermelis.
You see, Tchelis wears shorts. on
You got
Shabbos.
up early. It's the night, so you can see it's very light.
I have to tell you a Don Lekavska story. Friday night, about 11:45, I see a guy, a respected guy running around in his, like, he looks like huffing and puffing in his shorts and a t-shirt. Mamash, 11:45, maybe even later, Friday night. So I look at him, and he looks at me. He says, "No, it's not what you think." He says, "I was sleeping, and they're doing construction in a house next to me, and I hear sawing. My wife wakes me up. She says that she hears sawing." He says, "There's no shiloh that they're ripping off the guy's pipes to sell them. The house is under construction. There's no shiloh." He says, "I can't call the cops." He tells me, right? I say, "You can't call the cops. There's no sakana. There's nobody there." He said, "So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to wave down a guy to try and get the cops." He couldn't find it, but he was in the middle of the night in his shorts, right? You think like a guy's doing exercise or whatever, in the middle of the night, nobody sees him. That's not what it was. That's not what it was. Anyway, so, yeah. Yeah. So Nischavan Lishbais Barosh HaShoivach or Barosh HaMigdal, if his kavanah was that he's making his eruv on top of a shoivach is what do you call it? A birdhouse, not a bird. There's a word for that.
Dovecote.
Oh, that's the way they touch it? A dovecote. I can't say what to touch that. But, yeah, I guess. Where chickens hang out, yeah? I Barosh HaMigdal on top of a box. So now this is the opposite. If it's higher than 10 tvachim, his eruv is an eruv. Right? The opposite of the wall. The wall, if it was below 10 tvachim, the eruv is a good eruv. Above 10 tvachim, it's no good. Here, if it's above 10 tvachim, the eruv is a good eruv. Below 10 tvachim, it's not an eruv. V'amai, why? Hachanami, name a hayel v'yachalin. Okay, 1 second. So why is it no good if it's below 10? Because the guy's above 10, right? He's sitting on top of a box that's above 10 tvachim. He can't get his eruv from below 10, right? It's the opposite of the wall. He can't get it, right? So, but if it's above 10, he could get it. If it's below 10, he can't get it. So Gemara asks, right? Why can't you say that he could lean it, right? He can lean the top of the box, and then it'll end up being it'll be within 10 tvachim, right? And then it should be able to be used even below 10 tvachim, right? Meaning again, the guy he started out Shabbos sitting on top of the box, right? So that's what he was now. So now the eruv is on top of the box, and he goes down below the, and then he goes off to the ground. How's he going to get it? So why can you tilt it? Theoretically, you can tilt the box, and then it'll be within 10 tvachim, right? Meaning, once we're saying theoreticals, that's what yirmiyah said. He said, we say theoreticals, then that works, so why don't you say theoretical here too? So yirmiyah, no, we're talking about where it's nailed in. So since it's nailed into the wall, there's no way to tilt it. So therefore, it's not you don't have that option. It could even be a migdal that's not nailed in. We're talking about a very long box. Meaning it's so tall, this thing, that if you're going to tilt it, it's going to end up going outside of the 4 amos for him, so then you can't access it because it's outside of his 4 amos. Right, within 4 amos, it's mutter to carry in Rosh Hashanah. Outside 4 amos, you can't. So I think where it says, if it has a window with a string, why shouldn't it be able to hold on to the string, right? And take it through the window in the migdal, and then he should be able to access it that way because he's holding on to it. So one answers Pasha, the Leslie Kapsul Masa didn't have a window with a string, meaning so he couldn't attach the eruv to a string, right? It's right. So he didn't have that option. Okay, fine. Now we get to a different subject. Nasnu babar afilu amak mea amma. If you put it into a bar, even if it's 100 amas deep, the eruv is still an eruv, right? So Gemara is going to say, hi bar. What exactly is the case of the bar? Hi bar the koi. This bar that we're talking about, the koi heicha. Where is this bar? If we say that the bar is in a private property, pshita we know that Rosh Hashanah, anything in Rosh Hashanah goes all the way to the sky. The salka la'el, Just same way that the Rosh Hashanah goes all the way up, and there's no maximum height for Rosh Hashanah. There's no maximum depth for Rosh Hashanah either. So if this bar is sitting in Rosh Hashanah, so of course it's not. Of course it's not a problem, no matter how deep it is. The whole thing is in Rosh Hashanah, right? Vela, again, it's talking about where a guy comes and he puts his eruv tchum in his friend's yard, right? And his friend has a bit deep hole in the yard, and he's living in his friend's hole, right? So we're saying it can be as deep as possible. What's the chiddush? The same way Rosh Hashanah goes up to the sky, so the Rosh Hashanah also goes down as deep as possible. Vela, the Rosh Hashanah. So it must be where it's in Rosh Hashanah. So then the Gemara answers, then it's chavan l'shbas. So where was his kavanah to sleep? Where was he staying? If he was staying on top of the hole, so then how could it work? He's in one place, he's in Rosh Hashanah, and his eruv is in Rosh Hashanah, right? So that can't work. And if it's lamata, pshita, if it's lamata and it's inside a hole that's in Rosh Hashanah, so then of course why shouldn't it be an eruv? They're both inside the hole. So the tricha the kaiba kermelis, somewhere where he was standing in the hole is in a kermelis, right, which is no man's land. It's only a derabanan. And he wanted to stay on the top. For Rebbi, we're going according to Rebbi, the Amar called over Bein Hashmashos. Anything that is a shvus, there's no gezer Bein Hashmashos, so there's no Bein Hashmashos, there's no issa derabanan with something for tzarech Shabbos. Now, Stam, we have to discuss this. We said we were going to discuss this a little bit more. So does that mean that you can just go do any issa derabanan Bein Hashmashos? That's what it sounds like according to Rebbi. They would not go on a shvus Bein Hashmashos, right? So the Rambam says no. It only means.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah.
You start just what is Bein Hashmashos? Let's say Shkia is 7 o'clock. When is Bein Hashmashos?
Starts at 7 o'clock.
It ends.
It starts at 7.
It
ends according to everybody. Bein Hashmashos is approximately 15 minutes.
So it's 15 minutes after Shkia.
15, yeah, but the problem is that you have the problem. What's the problem?
No, you can say what you want to say. I just want
No. So I'll just explain it very quickly. The reason why our Bein Hashmashos is like a half hour to 40 minutes is because you have a Machlokes. The Goinim held that Bein Hashmashos starts at Shkia, like you said, 7 o'clock, and it ends be'erach 7:15. That's it, and then it's Laila. Rabbeinu Tam held that Shkia Bein Hashmashos doesn't start till around 55 minutes after Shkia and then goes for 15 minutes, right? Wow. So the problem is we don't know which one to go like. So we take we look at that whole deal as it's Bein Hashmashos. But according to all opinions, the Bein Hashmashos is only be'erich 12.5 to 15, 13, whatever in that area minutes. And it's just a matter where you put those minutes. Right, so that's what we're saying. But anyway, so Bein Hashmashos, because we want to get in according to Rabbeinu Tam.
Who holds Bein Hashmashos later?
Who holds Bein Hashmashos?
Yeah. It's not even close.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so the shaila is what? So why don't we do isura derabanan? So the Rambam says it doesn't mean it can only be done. It can only be done for mamash for a tzarech mitzvah. And therefore, Amir La'akam is mutter Bein Hashmashos. This is why we do allow anything. You could ask away anything as long as it has some sort of necessity. But theoretically...
I thought in Europe they did that.
What? Ask the
guy. They did malacha. Yeah, they smoked.
Yes, in Europe, if you held like Rabbeinu Tam,
they had Rabbeinu Tam.
Yeah, on Friday, but on Motzei Shabbos they went the other way. Everybody had their kulas. Right? In the Litta, they went Friday. They was earlier, but Motzei Shabbos was much earlier, and the Chassidim was the other way around. Right, so we're machmer both ways, but
So a person's allowed to do, let's say, with a shina Bein Hashmashos, he wants an air conditioner on.
L'chayra, you don't even need a shinui. It's if you hold it to the Rabanan for electricity, l'chayra, you don't even need a shinui.
I'm saying, but even if you do it with a shina, it's like
So the Velt Lamaisa doesn't do it, right? You ever heard of anybody doing an Isser
No.
Bein Hashmashos?
No.
Right?
They allowed a
Yeah.
bus.
So it's interesting. I saw in the Piskei Tshuvas, he actually said the one that would be the most nageh is Rechitza and Chamen on Shabbos. You're in a shower and you hear that bell ring. Pashtus is you don't have to, if you're not done your shower, Pashtus is you don't have to go out of the shower, right? Because it's a derabanan, and it's a tzarech for Shabbos, right? Don't try that at home, or maybe I don't know. Certainly, don't try it in the mikveh. Maybe only try it at home, right? Okay, but Lamaisa, he does say it's an interesting point that the reason why it doesn't work is because once the city is makabel Shabbos on themselves, then it's no longer a din bein hashmashos. So that's why, since most shuls are saying mizmor shir, within those, some of that really they're supposed to be saying it before the chadaydi or the chunaranan or whichever, before shkia, which is what you're supposed to do, or within a couple of minutes. So once the tzibur is makabel Shabbos and no longer has a din bein hashmashos, and since everybody in town for the most part is being makabel Shabbos by shkia, so therefore the heter does not apply. The amir la'akam part will apply, but the heter won't apply. So that's why in practical we don't have it. But theoretically, if you were in camping or something and you needed to do an Isser Bein Hashmashos that was necessary for Shabbos, the Ma'aser we paskin that you can, but it's not so pashut. Anyways, and then an interesting thing. What about does he mean Bein Hashmashos Friday night? Does he mean Bein Hashmashos Motzei Shabbos? He certainly means Bein Hashmashos Friday night, right? Because you need it as a tzarech Shabbos, right? But let's say it's a big tzarech Motzei Shabbos. I got to get out. I got to get out fast to the ball game or movies or whatever. So can I start doing derabanan?
The flight.
What?
Now wants to catch a flight to Israel.
You got to get online for pizza.
Yeah, or get online for pizza, malava malka, it's a mitzvah, whatever. Yeah, so then can you do the Bein Hashmashos? That's already not so, that of Bein Hashmashos of Motzei Shabbos, that's already not so clear that would be. That's
What
really
about the wives that pick up their husbands from shul? So I don't know.
Well, that would be a deraisa. That would be a deraisa to drive the car, right? But unless they drive an electric car, then maybe it's a derabanan electric car.
Have a self-driving electric car.
Oh, right, or something like that. Okay. Anyways, fine. So yeah, zok the Mishna, yeah. So nasna b'roish hakona or b'roish kundus. So then if he takes the eruv and he puts it on top of a reed or on top of a kundus, is also on top of a pole. If as long as the pole is detached from the ground and then you restuck it in, even if it's 100 amas high, it's an eruv. Right now, the reason why it has to be cut and restuck in the ground is if it's not, then it has a din of a tree. Right? Then it has a din of a tree, which you're not allowed to climb up. So how are you getting to this thing if it's 100 amas high, your food? So you wouldn't be able to, right? But if it's detached and you put it in, then it's allowed. Yeah. Now, how come it's not in Rishus HaYochid? Right? We just said above 10 is Rishus HaYochid. So how come here it could be even 100 amas high? Right. So we said that pshat is because this thing is a reed. It's not 4 tefachim wide. Since it's not 4 tefachim wide, then memela it's a makom patur. Right. That's what Rashi says. Since it's not 4 tefachim wide, it's a makom patur. It's not a Rishus HaYochid, that's why you can get the eruv. Okay, so Rami le Rav Ada bar Masla Rava. Tolish v'no it's in, loy tolish v'no it's noi. If you detached it and stuck it into the ground, then it works. If you didn't, then it doesn't work. Money, who is the Rabanan? It's Rabanan da Amri called over Shum Mishum Shvus. Gazer Allah Bein Hashmashos must be going according to Rabanan, who say it's a shvus because who hold that shvus is not allowed. The opposite of the halacha we just said from Rebbi that it is allowed. Because if it was allowed, then why can't you use one that's stuck into the ground? It's only a derabanan, and it's a derabanan for a tzarech Bein Hashmashos.
What's the case of Polish v'nots? What's the case?
You took a pole, you took a tree, you cut it off the ground, and then you restuck it into the ground. Right?
Okay. Mashma
that
if it's not Polish.
Correct. Then it has a din of a tree because it's originally, that means it was it's still attached to the ground, and there's a gezer derabanan that you're not allowed to climb on a tree on Shabbos.
So what's the knots? What are you doing?
No, it says you restuck it back in the ground.
It's in the ground.
No. You cut down the tree, then you put it back into the ground.
That's the first part.
Yeah. So it's mashma that if you didn't cut it down, then you're not allowed to. Then you wouldn't. The eruv would be no good. Why? Because you're not allowed to go up a tree that's attached to the ground on Shabbos, on Bein Hashmashos. Oh, but what's only Bein Hashmashos, right? So it must be that the Mishna is going according to the Rabanan, who hold that Bein Hashmashos, you're not allowed to do this to the Rabanan, right? Which the Gemara is going to ask the obvious question. You said the Reisha is going according to Rebbi, right? The previous Mishnah we said it's going according to Rebbi, who holds Bein Hashmashos. You can do a derabanan. That's how we understand the Mishnah, the previous Mishnah. Now this Mishnah we're going according to Rabanan. Can it be? How can you say the Reisha is going according to Rebbi? Seif is going according to Rabanan when they're disagreeing with each other. So Amarle. Yes, they already asked this, and they answered that yes, the Reisha is the Rebbi and the Seif is the Rabanan. Ravina Amar, Kula Rebbi. The whole thing is Rebbi. No, but now we have a new Gezerah. It's really Rebbi, and really Rebbi would allow you to do it, but it's Gezerah. Perhaps you're going to cut it off. We're afraid that this thing is so flimsy that we're afraid that you're going to cut it down on Shabbos. So therefore, Rebbe did not allow you to climb up this thing. Fine. Hahupul Musa, the Asal Nahardar. So then there was an army that came to Nahardar. Amalu Rav Nachman, Puko Avidu Kfushi Kavshi Ba'agma. Right? I'll say what I'm saying before that. So this Pulmusa came to town. So Rashi says, so since they came to town, they pretty much they put the town at maximum capacity, and there was no room for the guys to learn on Shabbos afternoon. So Reb Nachman told him, go outside, Kvushe Kavshi Ba'agma, go into the Agam, to the how do you call it, Agam, a marsh, right? And sit down. Put down the reeds, like smooth out the reeds that grow in a marsh, so that we'll be able to have a place to sit on Shabbos. Right, and then the next day we're going to go on Shabbos. We're going to go sit on them.
How can they carry out there?
So, what?
Is it eruv? How do they carry it out there?
I don't know if they're going to carry. They didn't have Torah Shabbat back then. They just Torah Shabbat Peh. Right, so they're just going to go sit.
Okay.
Right. So Esvei Rami Bar Chomer Rav Nachman V'Armi Rav Ukva Bar Abba Rav Nachman. Tolish v'no it's in loy tolish v'loy in loy tolish v'loy no it's loy. We said that you're not allowed to use reeds, right? We just got finished saying that the reed is still attached to the ground. You're not allowed to put your eruv on it. So here, how are they allowed to sit on it? There they're talking about where the reeds already got much stronger. So since they're stronger, there's no chashtach that you're going to cut them off. Mashenkin, the reed that you're putting the food on top of it, that we're afraid you're going to cut down. Where do we know that we differentiate between reeds that got hard and reeds that didn't get hard? The Tanya, Hakonin v'Hatadonin v'Hahigin, right? These are types of trees and bushes. Min ilon hein ve'enim klayim bekerem. They're considered trees and they're not klayim bekerem. Now these klayim bekerem, as we know, is you're not allowed to plant. In your vineyard, you're not allowed to plant other things, but that doesn't apply to trees. You can't plant other fruits and vegetables, but trees you can. So we're saying that these things, konen, atadin, and ahagin, they're considered trees, and therefore you're allowed. There's no klayim bekerem. You're allowed to plant them in your vineyard. You don't have to make any separation. But we have another price that says they're considered vegetables. And it is klayim bekerem. Kasha adadi, it's a stira. One is somewhere where they're hard, one is somewhere where they're not hard. So where they're hard, they already have a din of trees, so therefore you're allowed to plant them. Where they're not hard, then they have a din of vegetables, and you're not allowed shmamino. That's a pshat.
That's like the hearts of palm, Ripsi Yaakov.
Oh, you mean because till they get hard, till they're very good, Taka. Very good, very good. Yeah. So the kida min yeraku is a kida type of vegetable, but nan ein markivin pagam, ein markivin pagam agabi kida. Right, you're not allowed to do a pagam or pagam on top of the kida levana. Now this is not klayim. This is, how do you call it? Harkava is grafting. Right? This is different din than klayim. This is take one tree and put it onto another tree and grow right? So the Mishna is saying you're not allowed to do this pagam agabi keda levanim b'neshu yerek be'ilam because that's a vegetable onto a tree, right? Again, that's a confusing thing. For klayim, it's no problem a vegetable to a tree. For harkava, for grafting, it is a problem. But you see here that this kida is called a vegetable. Amar Papa kida lechud v'kida levana lechud. No, there's kida and then there's white kida. White kida is a vegetable. Regular kida is not a vegetable unless if it's hard, it's going to be considered a tree. Fine. Zok the Mishna. Nasnum ben bigdol. Yeah, so now an interesting case. If you put it into a box, right, and then you lost the key to the box. Right, so you put your eruv tchum in a box. You locked it up because you're afraid somebody's going to come chop your eruv, and now you lost the key. So now you have no access to your eruv.
So you're saying on Shabbos you lost the key? You realized on Shabbos you lost the key?
Yeah. Well,
Right, you placed the eruv Erev Shabbos.
And you carry your key?
Shabbos. What?
And you're going to carry your key?
It could be. You can put an eruv. You can put an eruv in a city. There's no stira. If you're in an adjoining city, you can theoretically put your eruv into a different city. So you theoretically, yes. Or you thought you put it under the dirt or something, under a leaf, and then
he had the key, or he made the key into a tie clip, or he made for his belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought once it's there Erev Shabbos, you don't need it doesn't need to be there anymore.
Correct, but it comes out you didn't have access to it Erev Shabbos. Right? You didn't have access to it because it was locked. Right? So anyways, so the Mishnah is saying that it's still considered an eruv. Right? If you don't know that the eruv is in its place, then it's not an eruv. Right? It's an interesting thing. Is he disagreeing? I mean, he's clearly disagreeing. Why doesn't he just say it's not an eruv? Why does he say im eno yedei shamafteach b'mekoymoi? Right?
He's more than just arguing, no?
What? What are you
He's
saying?
more than just arguing. He's saying besides the Mishnah's cases where I know I lost the key, he's saying even in a case where I don't know that I have the key.
He's saying even if you don't know it's lost. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you don't know it's lost, as long as you can't find it, right? Then that's already enough not to make it an eruv.
You forgot where you put it.
Yeah. This comes up a lot, by the way, with people with the ksubas. Right? They don't know it's lost, they just can't find it. Right? It happens a lot. The shayla is, what do? You have to write a new ksuba right then and there. Okay, but anyways, so the question is, why is it an eruv? If you can't what's the Tanakama's pshat? You can't access your eruv. You're locked out. Right? So he's in one place and his eruv someplace else, and he can't access it. Rav Shmuel, so we answer Rav Shmuel. We're talking about a box made out of stones, right? Not levanim. That's white. Levanim, right? Stones. Askina. V'Rameir, and it's going to Rameir. On Shabbos, you can take off some of the bricks in order to get to it. If you have a house, if you have a house that was full of fruit and it was closed off, and now and it's Yom Tov and Nifchas, then what happened was Nifchas, it got broken down. Then you can take vegetables, the fruit that was in this thing from where it opened up. You don't have to wait for the bricks to fall down. You can actually go remove the bricks yourself. So that's the case that we're talking about here. So really comes out the Gemara saying, really, if it was locked, the eruv is not a good eruv. It's talking about where there was theoretical access. You could have gotten access to it if the bricks fell down, or Rameir, who held that you can remove the bricks. Right? So that's talking. So Rav Nachum bar Adam Shul says it's talking about they're not cemented together. Right? There's no cement. It's just bricks. Right? And that's what.
I mean, if they were cemented together, how could you take them apart?
Right, exactly. That's what he's saying. That's talking about. That's what Rameir allowed it because it wasn't cemented together. But if it be cemented together, Rameir would not allow it. So Gemara says, no, here too we're talking about where they're just piled up. It's not cemented. So They only said this on Yom Tif. Rameir only allowed this on Yom Tif, but not on Shabbos. So Gemara answers, Hachanami be Yom Tif. So too here, it's talking about Yom Tif. Right, so we are talking about Yom Tif. We're not talking about Shabbos. Ihachi hainu dekatani Allah. Rebbi Elazar Omer in Be'ir Avad eruv. In Be'ir Avad, if it got lost in the air, eruv eruv, his eruv is an eruv. In Besada Avad, and if it got lost in the field, an eruv eruv, his eruv is not an eruv. Meaning he's differentiating between whether it's in a city or in a field, right? Because in a city you can get the key over there, right? But in a field you can't. Biba yomtiv mali ir mali sad. And if it's yomtiv, what's the difference if it's a city? What's the difference if it's a field? Must be right. It must be. It's only talking about Shabbos. So the Gemara answers chesure mechsura. There's something missing here. B'achi ketani. This is what it's saying. Nasnu b'migdal. If he put it into a box, v'no b'front of him, it was locked in front of him. V'avad amaftech, and the key was lost. Hareza eruv. It's still an eruv. B'med dvarim amurim b'yomtiv. That's only on yomtiv. Our b'Shabbos. But if it's on Shabbos, ain't eruv eruv. His eruv is not an eruv. Nimtza maftech. If you found the key, bein be'ir, bein besada, ain't eruv eruv. If you found the key, the whether you're in the field, the whether you're in the city, is eruv is not an eruv, right? Why? Because you can't carry, right? Which we're going to see weiter, and soon why that is. But the reason why it is because he's chaylik on Reb Shimon, and Reb Shimon held that you can carry from field to house to roof and all that on Shabbos, and here the Rabanan are disagreeing. Reb Eliezer Omer be'ir eruv eruv. The sada ain't eruv in the city is an eruv is an eruv because he can carry from house, from yard to yard to roof or whatever it is. But sada ain't eruv, but a sada, since he couldn't get the key over there, then his eruv is not an eruv. Right? Should we stop here? Okay, yeah. I mean, it's a whole long sugya after this, so we'll start it again. We'll just start again from here tomorrow. Okay, a good tvach, pretty relatively easy daf for a Motzei Shabbos. All right, a good tvach. A good yard. Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
You go, Tom.
Take care of the kids a little bit.
What is that?
I have to help my wife with the kids.
Oh yeah.
Crazy needed help instead. Couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Your phone didn't stop.